Money is just paper, so why does it control our lives? From the moment we open our eyes in the morning until we close them again at night, almost every decision we make revolves around the same thing: money. When we wake up, we think about transportation costs. When we're hungry, we think about food prices. School, work, healthcare, vacations, even simple entertainment, all of it involves money. We work hard for money. We sacrifice time, energy, and even our health to get it. Many people feel stressed, anxious, or like failures simply because of financial problems. And yet, when you really think about it, money is not oxygen, it's not water, it's not food. Without money, life in the modern world becomes extremely difficult, but money itself is not a biological necessity for survival. Money is a human invention, a collective agreement, a shared fiction we all choose to believe in. If today we showed money to humans from tens of thousands of years ago, or to intelligent beings from another planet, they likely wouldn't see it as valuable at all. Money only has value because we collectively agree that it does. So the real question becomes interesting. How did something we created end up controlling our lives? To understand this, we have to go far back to a time when humans didn't know money at all. For hundreds of thousands of years, humans lived as hunter-gatherers. They survived by hunting animals and collecting wild plants. Life was simple but deeply dependent on nature. Problems began when the human population grew. Food sources became scarce. Hunting was no longer enough. Out of necessity, humans went through one of the biggest revolutions in history, the agricultural revolution. They learned how to cultivate land and grow their own food. Agriculture changed everything. For the first time, humans produced surplus food, more than they needed for that day. But abundance created a new problem. How do you store and manage it? This is where new social roles emerged. Warehouse managers, people who didn't farm or hunt, but controlled food distribution. In their hands, crucial decisions were made: who ate and who didn't. From piles of grain emerged power, social hierarchy, and eventually the concept of private property. Writing itself wasn't created for poetry or storytelling, but for economic record-keeping, tracking harvests, taxes, and debts. Contrary to what many history books tell us, money did not naturally evolve from barter. Archaeological evidence suggests the opposite. Money came first, and barter usually appeared later, often when monetary systems collapsed. One of the earliest clues is the word shekel, frequently found on ancient clay tablets. At first, scholars thought it was a unit of weight, but it turned out to be a unit of value used to record debts and taxes. Interestingly, this money wasn't a coin or paper. It existed only in records. In other words, the first money in history was virtual money. Money was created by rulers and religious institutions as a tool to manage societies and collect taxes more efficiently. As long as people believed in its value, the system worked. Jump forward to medieval Europe. Under feudalism, land was owned by nobles. Ordinary people were allowed to live and farm there as long as they handed over a large portion of their harvest. Their survival depended entirely on landowners. Then a new group emerged: merchants. At first, they were underestimated, but as navigation and global trade advanced, merchants accumulated enormous wealth. States and monarchies took notice. Kings and queens sponsored trade expeditions that often resulted in colonization, slavery, and resource exploitation. The Industrial Revolution became a major turning point. Machines replaced human labor, production skyrocketed, profits exploded, but humans were reduced to workers measured by productivity rather than dignity. This was the birth of modern capitalism, a system that places profit at its center. From this reality emerged two major economic philosophies. Adam Smith argued that if individuals freely pursued their own self-interest in the market, an invisible hand would guide society towards collective prosperity. Karl Marx, on the other hand, saw this system as a new form of exploitation. Workers, he argued, created surplus value that was taken by those who owned capital. His solution was collective ownership of the means of production. History shows, however, that no system is immune to the abuse of power. Capitalism can produce oligarchies. Authoritarian socialism can create new political elites. Systems may change, but human behavior often doesn't. Today's economic system works like a massive machine. For it to keep running, money must keep circulating. According to investor Ray Dalio, the lubricant of this machine is debt. Credit allows people to spend money they don't yet have. The problem is that this system demands endless growth, while our planet has finite resources. As a result, many essential things are ignored: mental health, the environment, creativity, and overall quality of life. Inequality continues to widen. A small fraction of humanity controls an unimaginable amount of wealth, while billions struggle to meet basic needs. If another species behaved this way, hoarding resources while others starved, scientists would likely call it abnormal. But when humans do it, we call it normal. So what's the solution? Because money and economic systems are human creations, they can be changed. There isn't one single solution, but rather a combination of approaches. 1. Change how we see money. Money should be treated as a tool, not the purpose of life. Financial education should emphasize well-being, not just wealth accumulation. 2. Human-centered economics. Models like the well-being economy and donut economics measure success not just by GDP alone, but by health, education, environmental sustainability, and happiness. 3. Regulating excessive accumulation. Progressive taxation, wealth transparency, and anti-monopoly policies can reduce extreme inequality without killing innovation. Individual awareness. Everyday choices, how we work, consume, and define success, helps shape the system. Large changes always begin with small awareness. Money is not the enemy, but it is not a god either. It is simply a tool we created to make life easier. When that tool begins to sacrifice humanity, the environment, and the meaning of life, the problem isn't money itself, it's how we choose to use and organize it. The final question isn't which system is the best, it's this: are we brave enough to imagine and build a system that is more fair, more human, and more sustainable? Because if money is a story we created together, then the future should be one we are brave enough to rewrite together.